Let's do it.
All right, hello and welcome to the Holy Hour podcast. It's the bi-weekly All Cure podcast. I'm Gavin, and I'm joined by Chaz. Hello, Chaz.
Hello, Gavin. I feel like I'm your bi-weekly co-host.
She's from voice from the
Oh my
long time
God.
back. It's so good to see you again.
Oh my
and have
God.
you on here. Summer's been crazy.
Yeah. Fans,
hanging
I'm
in-
sorry. Listeners, I'm sorry. It's been, even my other podcast, it's been, scheduling has been absolutely nuts. And
Yeah.
we've just been running like a bare bones crew over there. And so I think usually the summer's when we usually have more time.
Yeah, I know, right? It's
Like
totally
every
been
other
the
year,
opposite.
every
It's
other
like,
year,
all
I'm
right.
like, this is the time where you can catch up on stuff and get stuff done.
Crank
and
them all out. Yeah, now we're all like, all right, we'll do this one. We'll rotate. We'll get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. But it's all good and got you here, so that's good. And sorry, yeah, like you said, to other people tune in for you. They're all like, I've been listening to this mumbly fuck for 8 episodes in a row. I don't need this. And
You
then-
do well enough here on.
Thanks, but I don't know. It always feels a little dodgy. So yeah, Antonio's gonna join us too. He's rebooting his router, as they say in the IT world. So yeah, everybody got the first bout of rain, I guess, in 200 years it's been.
Yeah, it felt like it. Yeah, we got pummeled by thunderstorms. I thought I was gonna have to cancel tonight, and I was gonna get really frustrated again.
Yeah.
And luckily nothing went out. But then Antonio lives north of me by about an hour, and it feels like he got it now. And his power went out. So, yay!
We'll see.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He'll join us in when he can. And happy episode number 251.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, this is a big night. This is so I figured what better way to celebrate than to revisit our origin stories. What? That seems like a weird idea, but yeah, we've actually had a couple requests of people mentioning, so you get other people's origin stories. Why haven't you guys ever told yours? And I'm like, we did, but it was just 251 episodes ago. Or I actually took note. Chaz's origin story is episode 56. If people want to go back and check it down,
Please
don't. Yeah, I know. Luckily, mine was episode 1. Nobody listens to that episode, so. And then Antonio's was, I think, episode 167. We covered it during the Entreat episode as well, when he was doing his Fascination Street Cure podcast, and we brought him on as a guest.
Well,
and
we didn't bring him on. It was more like a hostile takeover, and we just kind of absorbed his podcast.
Come hang out with us, man.
Yeah.
So there can only be one. so yeah, 167 episode and 56 and number 1. So I guess it is time we revisited. We've touched on various stories throughout. I know I definitely probably reference parts of my origin story quite often, but why not? Let's put them all together.
Yeah,
it's
let's
kind
do
of a
it.
historic 250 mark of episodes. That's kind of a big deal, right? So seems like a good starting over point. We've been talking about the self-titled album a lot and how weird that is that it's self-titled. It's their 12th album. So so here it is, the rebirth of the Holy Hour podcast with our origin tales.
Yeah, I never understood why bands do the self-titled album. That should be your first album.
Yeah,
And that's
career.
it. Anything besides your first or maybe second album, don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't do that shit.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
So, and it's always fun just to talk about the early days. So I don't know. What do you say? Should we dive in? How do we want to kick it off? Do you want to go first then, and we can?
I can go first. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was born in 1980. I was 2 months early when I came out of my mother's vagina.
Whoa, you don't have to go that
No,
far.
okay,
back.
all right, all
It's
right.
Cure origins.
So I was born in 1980, so I was they had already started before I was even born, so they were already established, when by the time I could even comprehend what music was. And like I don't remember much of them growing up other than seeing stuff on MTV or VH1, and occasionally hearing them on the radio. And this is where I tell everyone I grew up in a very religious and fundamentalist household,
Mm,
and I could not listen to non-Christian music. And even if it was Christian music, it had to be certain styles and bands. So like
mm.
no metal or anything like that, even though I kind of got it into the house. Anyway,
This is
so
where we put the
y-
asterisks of
yeah,
CX Communication Station
y-
podcast for more detail.
yeah, do that if you want to. But so just to say that like I listening to music wasn't a luxury that I had as a kid. Neither TV either. So the times watching MTV and VH1 and everything was when I was left at home alone, if I got a chance to do that. So when I got into music, I really got into grunge and punk first.
Mm,
Those were kind of my first two loves, and I had to hide that a lot. So a lot of the time I would take like Christian artists and write their names on like blank tapes and then have like the Misfits on it.
yeah.
So, I'd have this band Jeff Moore in the Distance, who was this really shitty Christian band. And like I'd
uh,
be listening to, Walk Among Us instead. So, but nobody knew it.
nice.
So like my world and musically really didn't explode until I was like probably about 15 or 16. And by then I was just everything had to be fast and hard, and I didn't really want anything else. So the first time I really got exposed to The Cure was in senior year of high school. And I had took accounting as a math elective so I could graduate.
Mhm.
And there was a girl in the front of the class, and unbeknownst to me, she had a crush on me all year. And it wasn't until like the end of the year her friends told me. But like halfway through the year, our teacher was going to be gone for a while for something. I think she might have had a baby. I don't remember. Um, but like so we had a lot of substitutes, so we were just kind of fucked around. And
Imagine that.
yeah, I was like, "Hey, you want to like change exchange music or exchange CDs or whatever?" And I'm just like, "Oh, sure, sure." So we did that. And I remember some of the stuff that she had. So Weezer, Pinkerton, she had this band Kid Dynamite from Philadelphia. They were a punk hardcore band. And then she had The Cure Disintegration. And I was just like sitting there in the back of the class. I gave her all my shit, and I'm just like, I'll give it a chance.
Yeah.
And like like honestly, like it really didn't really hit me until I heard Fascination Street.
Yeah.
And like I was just like, yeah, I can get into this. But like even then it wasn't a huge part of what I was into because I just wanted fast and hard. And
Right.
um this girl was into punk too, and she kind of opened the doors to The Cure for me in that way. And then we started going record shopping. We eventually started dating about a year later.
Mhm.
And so we spent a lot of time together, and we would go record shopping. And one time we went to Double Decker Records in Allentown, RIP.
Mm.
Just closed last year, earlier this year. So
Yeah.
um, they had a huge selection of used Cure records, and that's when my Cure collection started because I think I might have at the time I was reviewing CDs for
Uh-huh.
this website, and I just collected bunches of CDs and bring them to the record store and exchange them for credit. And so
Okay.
like I
Yeah.
think I spent like $20 for like 10 Cure records, like with all the credit involved. So
Yeah. Those are the
I
days.
yeah, yeah. I know some of the records I bought. And one of them was Three Imaginary Boys. So I got home that night and put it on, and I was just like really taken aback because drastically different from anything that I had heard from them before. But
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, these guys were really rooted in punk rock,
Yeah.
which gives them more legitimacy to me than other bands.
Yeah.
I don't know, it gives you like this raw and DIY legitimacy to the band that I don't really couldn't really see with a lot of bands their size.
Right.
Um,
And it's that
so
direct bridge to what your kind of comfort zone or what you're
yeah,
into, so it's
yeah.
kind of like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, so like even with like bands before that I was into like Nirvana, they had connections to the punk rock scene early in
Yeah.
their days and everything. So like I definitely gravitated towards that. I felt like I had some sort of spiritual connection to them in that sort of way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there's other people that felt that way, which I've discovered from this podcast and just talking to people.
Yeah.
So that's really rad that like I'm not the only person that was just like, well, like this is really punk, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then if we, if you wanted to dissect their music from their sound to their attitude to their fashion and how fucking punk rock it's been.
Uh-huh.
It's really amazing, like if you actually think about it, and like
Yeah.
they
For
pretty much
sure.
came from nothing and built their own way, and an independent label. I
Right.
mean, who the fuck does that? Like
Yeah.
who gets that fucking big off and like the Pixies and the Cure, it's
Yeah.
like
It's all these little details. Yeah, I didn't even feel like I really realized that till years later.
yeah,
You kind of read it as a kid passing or whatever, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, it's like, god damn, yeah, that's pretty badass.
yeah.
So,
So that like really, really affected me, and I was like, and then at the time I was really starting getting into collecting records, and
had
so
disintegration like really seeped in at that point, or did this kind of just further it by making that connection with the punkier stuff?
not until that summer,
Yeah,
spending like really intimate times with this girl,
yeah,
and we just sat there and listened to a lot of music together, and we watched a lot of movie like we watched The Crow a lot together.
yeah, cool.
And we were into the same music that was into that movie, and like we were into Burn and everything. So uh when we actually broke up, like it became a pretty big point in my life to like connect that
Yeah,
heartbreak to the band when I hadn't had that really before.
right.
So that
Especially when
really,
she was the source of that band
yeah,
too.
yeah. So
So,
it kind of went from there, and then I just started collecting more and more and finding, I don't know, like this was kind of before downloading music.
yeah.
So like this was the early 2000s. So like you
Well,
were downloading music, but you'd have to like you hope nobody picked up the phone, or like or shit like
right.
that, or like you hope you had a good connection.
Yeah. Your
S-
computer wouldn't get pumped full of viruses
that
from.
too, yeah. So
So,
I wasn't really downloading music at that point, so a lot of it was just going to Double Decker and seeing what they had for The Cure and buying pretty much whatever they had. And 7 inches to LPs. I
yeah.
wasn't really doing CDs that much, although that probably would have been an easier way to consume them.
Yeah.
Instead of going home and putting them on vinyl, flipping it over and recording it
Yeah,
on a tape.
no, that's like I said, it was good you were doing it then. It was slightly earlier, so you weren't
Yeah.
trying to get into all that now.
Yeah. So yeah, and then my it was like the two or mid 2000s. I moved to Chicago, and still went to Reckless Records a lot out there, and still continued my Cure collection. I know most of the records, Cure records, that I got from that store. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's really weird that I have like a photographic memory of tell you where I can got which record
Each
where.
one from where? Yeah.
But
It's
I can't remember somebody's face, even in name, when I see him like 30 times in a row. So I don't
right.
know what that's about. Um, so yeah, and then I met my wife in 2006, and she thought it was kind of weird that like she's even said this that like I was like this hardcore guy, and like the first time we hung out, I put in like Texas is the Reason and The Cure, and like
Right.
she's like, "What the fuck is this?" And like,
Oh, he has a sensitive side too. Nice.
and that
Yeah.
same girl that got me, that you'll appreciate this. Antonio joined us now, so
Hey,
uh,
Antonio.
What's up?
How's it going?
um, one of the first times I was hanging out with this girl that got me into The Cure, I had her listen to The Promise Ring. And she was like, "This is the
Nice.
gayest shit I've ever heard in my life." And this was like in '99. So I'm just like, I started cracking up laughing. So, yeah, two different, both responses from
Yeah,
the
different
two
sides of
women in
it.
my life. They're just like, "What are you
Nice.
listening to?" So, yeah, but my wife fully embraced it. She was my girlfriend at the time, and like,
Right.
I know I posted online, a picture of the concert tickets that she got me. I think out of nowhere for the Cure coming to Chicago. And
Yeah.
they eventually canceled that tour, but then like when they were going to come over in 2008, she surprised me again with those tickets for that concert. So, and
Yeah.
she's dropped little things here and there for my Cure collection and my love of the Cure, and
Right on.
allowed me to do the t-shirts and all this other stuff. And then come a couple years ago, I was sitting in my kitchen in on 136 Eachus Avenue, and I was cleaning the dishes, and I was wondering if there's a Cure podcast anywhere, and I was just started getting into like WTF and like all these other podcasts, and like
Yeah.
so I'm just like, I'll look it up. I was like Cure, and like the Holy Hour popped up, and I think I listened to a couple episodes, and the Wish one pissed me off. And so I wrote Gavin,
Yeah.
and like kind of the rest was history after that.
Very
And
good.
I remember
Well,
we moved to this house.
Was it the whole episode that pissed you off, or was it Donald?
I no, it was a lot of it was like a lot of the like I don't think Gavin pushed back enough on some
yeah,
stuff, but I
he
know
had
the
a way of
email.
overshadowing the,
Yeah,
the billion compliments I would leave. Just nobody heard at all. It
yeah.
was just those painful ones would always just seep in a little extra. But
Yeah. But
yeah,
then,
well,
yeah, and then I remember we moved over to when we bought our house, which I sold a ton of my records to get a down payment for, but I kept all my Cure stuff. So yeah, we moved over here, and I remember I recorded something for, I think, Just Like Heaven, and sent it
yeah.
over to you, and then you were like, "You just want to join the podcast?" And I was just like, I don't have a microphone.
Neither does Donald.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm pretty sure that's what you told me. And I
Yeah,
was just like,
probably.
"Oh, sure." Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Gavin's been become one of my closest friends from this podcast. And I love you to death, and I'm so happy that I'm on here with you, and that we have this together, and we've seen our favorite band 6 times together.
Yeah, at least,
Is
yeah.
that it? We count.
Let's see, yeah, I guess if we count the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
that counts.
yeah, and I've shared those with one of my best friends, and I absolutely love that. So thank you for letting me be a part of this, and
Sure, no
Antonio,
problem.
love you too, and this has been great to have you join
Love you,
us.
bro.
And
Oh,
yeah, it's amazing that this band has brought not
yeah,
just us
it's
together, but like we've like formed our own community. I formed one that's adjacent with the stupid Instagram page.
mhm.
Some in one way or another, and then we've done it with the podcast, and
Yeah,
it's just awesome, like walking around at those concerts, and like
yeah,
people saying hi to us and like recognizing us and just being like let's get a picture, you know, and it's just like this is
Yeah, that still
wild.
blows my mind running into people at Madison Square
Yeah.
Garden. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you got like 20,000 people in a crazy city like New York, and we were literally bumping into people. I was like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think like the
So,
default
awesome.
setting for many Cure fans, if not most of them, is the I'm just gonna keep to myself and not say anything, you know. But
hmm
the fact that we've opened these doors and things have
that's
come,
me.
you know, yeah, totally. So it's like a reluctant community or something, you know, or we're just like I don't know, man. But then so many cool people we've met doing this, and it just keeps being fun and fresh and always new people popping in, you know. I was like, hey, I just stumbled across this. Cool. And kind of the reason for doing this, where people are like, what? You guys
Yeah.
haven't told your story. And I'm like, we have. But
No, no, seriously.
but yeah, that's great. I guess a couple quick questions, Chaz. The girl's name, are you willing to drop it, or at
Yeah,
least
her
an
name was
alien?
Veronica.
Okay, cool. I
Veronica.
was just
Yeah.
wondering, yeah, I have this whole theory on the makers, you know. They're
Yeah.
like vampires. Is that what you call them? The maker that turns
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
into
Yeah. Yeah.
that's yeah, it's
Well, and she was really into vampire shit too. So
oh
that
yeah,
was
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
So,
So
very cool.
not gonna go into that at all, but
Well, cheers to Veronica if you're somehow
that would
listening.
be
Yeah,
wild
it's,
if she was. That would be crazy. I'm pretty sure she would have messaged me by now
yeah.
if she was
Oh,
listening.
yeah, that's
So
true.
Yeah, same with mine. I'll get to him.
yeah.
But, and I guess as far as what was the first, so it seemed like maybe not Blood Flowers. You missed that one as far as what was the first new album when you were
We had
like
actually
considered
we had
confirmed.
we had talked about going to the Blood Flowers tour, Veronica and I, because we
Oh
were we
wow,
were together at that point. And I don't know. I think I was just kind of like, I'd rather go to like a festival. So
yeah.
like I forget, like we went to Warped Tour. I forget we went to like 5 festivals that summer, her and
So that
I.
was
But
technically the first one when they were on your radar and you were
yeah, yeah,
small
yeah.
C
But
Cure fan maybe, but then full blown would be self-titled then.
2004, yeah. And
Yeah,
then I went to Curiosa for one. I probably should have gone to more, but
yeah,
I was just like, meh, you know.
yeah.
Don't really embrace what you're in when you're in it sometimes,
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
know.
It's very strange.
Yeah,
But
so I mean, I was there more for I mean, not for, I was there for the Cure, but like I was there to see Thursday and who else played? Cursive? Did
yeah,
they play?
and
So
Mogwai,
yeah,
Which year was that?
2004
Curiosa,
Curiosa
2004.
Fest.
The Curious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Interpol and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah, and then I saw them in 2008 when they
Yeah,
came to Philadelphia. And then again, like if I would have known in the time that I was in, I probably would have gotten tickets to other concerts during that run of tour, run of shows like I did
yeah,
the next couple tours. So
for sure. And Antonio had brought up a cool touch to put on these origin stories as we merge our current Cure status into our legacy of children, and yeah, and how have they been impacted by the Cure?
Yeah, just because I was thinking, because like none of us have been there since day one because we're older, you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like they're older than us, and just the power that they continue to have, and and the influence that they still continue to have on like the younger generation is just
mhm.
like crazy
yeah,
to me,
yeah.
like
Safe to
and talking to
say,
my son about it, I was like, we should add that in because it's like our origin stories then are now getting passed on through them. They'll have theirs,
yeah.
Yeah.
that we're a part of, and it's this like,
Being
like,
born into the Cure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder.
yeah, kind of, yeah.
My
Yeah,
parents were
it's
definitely
Better
not
than being
listening to the Cure.
better than being born into a psychopathic
Yeah.
religion,
very true,
like
very true,
like
very
some
true.
of us.
Yeah, neither. I mean, my oldest son is into like he's like he'll listen like he likes them and listens to them, but he's not like hardcore into them. And my
Yeah.
youngest has pretty much no interest, which is fine. Like I that I don't care.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. They both know I am. 90% of my shirts are, well, probably 95% of my shirts are Cure shirts, and
Yeah.
they know what Robert Smith looks like and everything, and they know some of the songs, but like, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping they have their own music that they're into, and
Yeah.
I just kind of let them
See
figure
where
out
it
it on their
goes.
own, and love what they love, and
Yeah.
so
And we took Jonas to the Philly show. Is he
yeah, he
still
loved it. He had a great
seemed like a
time.
good time? Yeah.
Yeah, he had a great time. He still wears his hoodie all the time, and
Nice.
it was like his first big concert. um Braden went to their first big concert this last year when they saw Melanie Martinez.
Awesome.
And my wife won tickets to see Selena Carpenter. I think that's her name. I don't know.
Sounds
She's a
sounds like
huge
a pop
artist right
star.
now.
Yeah.
But so they're gonna go see that. So and then my oldest son is into baseball and more than anything. So like,
Yeah.
we just kind of rock where they go, so
Yeah.
but
Well, I always had my Robert Smith poster right up next to Bo Jackson there.
there
So
you
that
go.
was
Yeah,
my.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Bo
That's
knows the
awesome.
cure.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I just hope my
pretty cool.
kids have find their own cure one day.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't have
It's
to be
cool.
mine, so I've
And obviously can't expect the children to totally love what we love or whatever, but at the same
yeah,
time they're pretty fucking lucky that we're not like dropping Right Said Fred records on them every five
very
weeks,
true.
or something.
Yeah, right. When you think about some of the garbage that came out,
Yeah.
like, come here, son. Let me tell you about Millie Vanilli.
Exactly.
You
Blame it on the rain. Yeah. Yeah.
So, who
Yeah, I
knows?
just I really just want my kids to have that journey, whether it's a movie
Yeah,
or whatever, music or whatever it is, and I hope that they find a communities that's as cool and supportive as for the most part as this one. Yeah, any
yeah,
community is gonna have shit people, but
yeah.
but hopefully they
Especially
find
with the
one.
internet involved.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh
Whole
yeah.
new wrinkle. So,
Yeah,
very
I'm done.
cool, man. Oh, that was wonderful. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Good night,
Very
everyone.
cool. Yeah.
Thank you, Cleveland.
Cool. Awesome. Well, welcome, Antonio. Since we didn't officially get to bring in the episode with you, I'm glad you got your
Yeah,
router
yes, thank
squared
you.
away and you got some rain.
Yeah. Yeah, we were getting all these alerts like crazy thunderstorms, and I'm like,
Yeah.
nothing's
And
happening, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden we got like 10 minutes of a really crazy
Yep.
one, and our power went out for like a minute. And then I was like, oh shit. And then I didn't think, oh, the router didn't reset itself. And I was like, no, what is life without Wi-Fi? You know?
it's like, do you need that to podcast? It's like,
I'm
oh
like, oh
shit, I think I
shit,
do.
yeah, I already had to do it for my phone once when I was having that
Yeah,
issue, and I was
sounds
like,
good.
I don't want to make Gavin have to go through all that editing.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So I was like, I'll just hop in.
It's supposed to be a quick and easy one. What the hell?
Yeah, right.
No such thing. Cool. Well, where does this magical story start for you, Antonio?
Yeah, so for me, I've always loved music since I was a kid, but I was always have to kind of be subjected to like, my mom's music, and obviously we grew up in an era where we didn't, you know, no iPods, no,
Yeah.
like limited amount of TV channels. You were kind of subject to whatever was on the radio or MTV. But growing up in a like super religious born again Christian house, like I couldn't really have MTV on all the time. If it was really snuck, and we didn't have it when I was like really, really young. Um, but I always loved music, whether it was my mom playing me Bob Dylan records and the
Yeah.
Beatles and stuff like that. And then when I want to say when I was like 6 or 7, um, I was homesick from school, and it happened to be the like Elvis Presley's like birthday
Hmm.
was like that weekend, and they were having like a movie marathon on TV, and I saw Elvis Presley, Girls, 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 and Blue Hawaii back to back,
Nice.
and I think that that's when I kind of really, really fell in love with music. I was like, yo, this dude can get on a table in a restaurant, start
I love
singing,
this guy.
and everybody goes crazy. I was like, sign me up. You know, like, um, and then as I got a little bit older, um, then you could kind of, like hear things on the radio and whatnot, or MTV. Um, and I remember the first Cure song I ever heard was "Boys Don't Cry."
Okay.
Um, and I was kind of just immediately drawn to like how catchy it was, and I remember not even knowing who it was because I think it was a situation where it was like, you know, on the radio, and they said it before, but I caught it a little late, and then they don't say it, and then it went into another song, and
Yeah.
then you're out of the car by then, you're like, fuck, who
What
was
was
that? I
that?
couldn't ask Siri,
Nah.
you know? And it's like, what's happening? And then once I was like, I got a little bit older, um, then I guess Wish had come out, and now I was really sneaking, watching MTV,
Yeah.
um, and things like that. And that's kind of when, seeing, you know, um, like first time, like seeing a music video of The Cure and being like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think it was Friday I'm in Love, and I was like, that's the band, that's the thing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then at that point, like my mom was easing up a little bit, or maybe she was just so busy that, with me sneaking things, or she just finally like, I think like, stopped caring at some point around when I was like 16,
Yeah.
because my brother was very troublesome and I wasn't.
Okay.
So she didn't care what I was doing, because it was more like, fuck, well, this one's, getting in trouble.
Just listening to that little Friday song over and over again.
Yeah, like whatever. He's learning the days of the
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
At least it's educational. And then that's when, I kind of started going on the dive, and I would go to the record store, as I had friends around the block that were, now 18. They were older and they could drive, and we would go to Tower. And that's when I was like, all right, I don't have a bunch of money. I have like grandma keeps slipping me money. I can buy one thing.
Yeah.
What's it going to be? So it was like, to me, it was like, well, I've got to get something that's going to kind of give me more information from the band, or more songs. So that was Standing on a Beach. Because now I saw, oh, there's that song that I first heard, and here's some of these other tracks, and I was like, what is this? And then, and then I also bought the Friday I'm in Love single on cassette.
Right.
And then, that was it. I mean, at that point, I was like, this is incredible. I love this. I didn't really have an identity fully in music yet. I mean, I was a little bit more into like hair metal and stuff, and I was just discovering hardcore, growing up in Long Island and Lindenhurst, the town I grew up in. We had a lot of like super influential bands coming from our area. So all at the same time, I'm listening to like Guns N' Roses and Skid Row and like all this stuff, and I was like sneaking those CDs into like Christian rock band like covers.
Yeah, that's what Chaz was saying.
So my mom's not gonna open the yeah, totally. Like there was this Christian metal band called like Tourniquet and like Striper, but if you looked inside of it, it was really like Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and Metallica, and then it was The Cure. But The Cure, my mom, they weren't on her radar, but the people at church were telling her that Guns N' Roses were the devil. So it's like that anything that was like bigger and on their radar at that point, they were all pointing fingers at metal, and it was Ozzy Osbourne's fault that, all this stuff was happening. And, and then I remember buying the gigantic fucking like 6-foot Boys Don't Cry poster. It was on the ceiling in my bedroom, like growing up. It's like I had that giant poster on my ceiling, and then like on my walls, I had like the 7 foot tall poster of Patrick Ewing from the Knicks that had like the to tell you how tall you were
Yeah.
on it because he was 7 feet tall. You know what I mean? And then it was just
Yeah.
like, uh, and there was something about the Cure that it scratched every musical
Yeah.
urge. There was angst in some of these songs. There was heartbreak. There
Yeah.
was catchy and happy. And I was like, oh, so like there's music out there that can cover all the
Yeah.
bases. There's a band that can give you a little bit of all of that. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, well, my metal's when I'm angry,
Right.
and then when I'm feeling super chill, I'll put on Bob Dylan or, I
Yeah.
was like, no, I can get all of this in this one band. Um, and one of the pivotal things for me, in like 1995 at like 17 years old, joining my first band. At that point, I had been playing some guitar. I had been playing guitar, and my little brother got jealous, so my mom got him a bass
Hmm.
guitar, and he never touched it. So there was this band on Long Island called Scarab. Um, and I remember actually, I think the first time I ever saw them play, the singer Melanie was actually wearing a Cure shirt that she cut up like a tank top and everything. And I was like, oh shit, they like the Cure too,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God. And like I bought their demo, and I bought a patch from my backpack, and I would go see them all the time, got to know them, and in Lindenhurst, like I said, there was tons of shows in my town. So I used to be able to like walk to
Yeah.
them. And then at 17, almost 18, they lost their bass player, and they said to me, do you play bass? And I was like, yeah, I do. Like in the back of my head, I'm like, no, I play guitar, and
Two less
I've
strings,
got a
right?
bass
How can it
sitting
be?
in the house that nobody uses, so they're like, yo, in a few weeks, let's get together. So I would go home, but their demo was 4 songs, and I would, try to learn it, but I was like, I need to get better at this instrument. I need to, and I was always an audio
Hmm.
learner myself, like my mom taught me some chords, and then I was just kind of teaching myself throughout the years on guitar.
Right.
Um, and I had always, would be singing, and I had to sing in the choir and, in
Yeah.
school and in church and stuff. So I remember being at my buddy Rick's house, and I would have my bass. Now at this point, like shit was kind of getting crazy at my house, and I would stay with Rick most of the time, and I was about ready to move out. I was just about 18. Um, so I would play along, and now I had discovered the masterpiece that is Disintegration.
Yeah.
And um, but I remember thinking to myself, all right, it'd be easier to play along with like songs that I love and a band that I love.
Hmm.
Um, and Rick had Entreat, and I was like, oh, well, it's a little bit easier to pick out the bass in something that's not like perfectly mixed for
Right.
radio. So I was like, if I take the live version, and I would sit there and play to it, and I would play, um, to Fascination Street. And I was like, if I can nail that bass line, I'm like the best bass player in the
Right.
world because, I was already looking up to, The Cure and Simon so much, and his bass playing just hit me. There was something about it that was just
Yeah.
boom. And I would, for hours, just sit in front of the stereo with my bass plugged into the amp and play along to The Cure. Um, and then it became a staple for us when I was going on tour I got into that
Yeah.
band. I was then in that band for years, Scarab, and we would tour the country. And, Melanie also loved like industrial bands and shit. She loved like Skinny Puppy but, then she would put on the Smiths, which I hated and I still hate to this day. But our compromise was always The Cure.
Right.
Everyone in the van, nobody bitched when you put a Cure CD on.
Nice.
Because again, there wasn't, you're talking now 95,
Yeah.
96. Like, I don't even think we had a CD player in our touring van. We had to, it was mixed cassette
Yeah.
tapes, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then eventually it became like someone had a Discman and that little like cassette
Yeah.
adapter.
Yeah.
And the Cure was something we could always, we could always
Groove.
chill and be cool
Yeah.
with. And there was just something to me about this band. Again, like they had stuff that for when I was angry, they had stuff for when I was sad, they had stuff for when the girl that I liked ended up going out with the other guy, and I was just
Yeah.
a fucking heartbroken mess. And in the hardcore punk scene, like, like same like as Chaz was saying, like there's something about the Cure they always got a pass
Yeah.
with everybody from every genre. It was like, no, no, it's cool to like that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes them so great is the fact that so many people from that love so many different types of music all have at least those one or two songs that are like, fuck, this is so good.
Yeah.
Like, because there's genres of music like I've never said fuck this is so good about a few like jazz fusion songs.
Right.
Like I'm like it's just not my thing,
Yeah.
and then I got more engulfed into the hardcore and the punk and the emo scene, and I was, touring a lot, and being out of my house by the time I was 18. I didn't have tons of money to buy records. So, there was that point where then like buying from local bands, buying 7 inches or bands you would tour with to give you CDs. And it's not that I forgot about the Cure, but I wasn't as focused because like I didn't have the money. I didn't have I was always skating by the skin of my
Yeah.
teeth. I'd never had to live on the streets. I always had a place to live, but I would bounce around a lot, different roommates, and then you'd go on tour, you'd lose your job and you get another job,
Yeah.
and you find another place to live, and
You're just busy living life. It's funny at that point. You're not really.
yeah, and the Cure was always there for me, but it's like, and when a new record would come out, I'd go pick it up, when I had money for a CD, like, and things like that. And it's one of those things where then, you fast forward in life, and now like I had a good job. I was getting married. It was before I had kids. I had stopped kind of touring so much. And, when that stuff kind of happens, you start to gravitate, back to things. And
Yeah.
then, I then was like, okay, cool. I can, I've got the money to buy some records, and,
Yeah.
because I always had vinyl because, punk and hardcore bands, and it's just funny because indie bands were putting out 7 inches.
Right.
Now it's like you've got to be a big band to put out vinyl
Mhm.
because it costs so much more because it's popular and because
Right.
there aren't many pressing plants anymore, so the price is driven up like a maniac. But it was like $5 and you got a 7 inch from the
Yeah.
from a band. It was like, yeah,
Right.
like um and it was always, now it's like I could do all those things. And then, you know, just as life goes on, my marriage, kind of went to the shitter. I had a really rough divorce, and The Cure was one of the bands that like really got me through that tough time because to me they were always my band. I didn't share it with anyone
Yeah.
else. It was um it was something that I was like, I could pull it from my past, but yet there were still, newer things, and there was a bigger discography, and I could kind of just, bounce around with it, and then they really, fully engulfed and became like my favorite, like the band that I could not live without if you were going to wipe out all other
Right.
music. If you put a gun to my head and said one band's discography, all else is being
Right.
disappeared, it was going to be them. So now over the last decade, it's like, I've had money, I've been established, I started collecting their vinyl. I would always, it would always be on, and my kids would hear it when they were little. Um, and one of the things that, really helped me draw myself even closer to the Cure was, at 17, helping to learn, playing bass along with them. Now, you know, it's funny because Elvis told me, he's like, yeah, Boys Don't Cry was that song that, really made me want to hear more and ask you more about the band. And I'm like,
Uh,
oh, it's funny. That was my gateway song.
awesome.
But then what I didn't even realize what he said to me, he was like, the moment I really got into them, Dad, is when I remember we were in your old apartment. Now, this is after I was divorced. He was
Hmm.
little. And he was like, we're in your old apartment and we were sitting on the couch. And at this point, I was just starting to show him guitar chords.
Okay.
And, I showed him, I was like, oh, well, let's do an easier Cure, song. So I like kind of played the chords for like Love Song. But then I grabbed my bass and I started playing the bass line to Love Song. He's like, when you were playing the bass line to Love Song, and then I was like, he was like, it was like cool because it's like you were projected like into the band and the
Yeah,
song,
cool.
and it was like, and I was like, oh my God, like, the bass riffs were something like for me too. And now as he has grown as a
Yeah.
musician and he's been killing it playing guitar now, he'll be 14 in a few months. Um, his little rock band at his music school a couple of years ago, he didn't tell me and he surprised me when I went to go see them play. He made the teacher let them do Boys Don't Cry.
Nice.
And I was everything inside of me to fight bawling in tears when they started playing it. And I remember looking over at, at Melissa and she knew and she had a smirk on her face. And then I looked over at him and then I could tell he was trying not to look at me because it would throw him off, and it was great. But then, then I just started asking him because him and I were driving into the city to go see the Aquabats, and we were talking about the Cure. And I was like, all right, well, he was like, so Boys Don't Cry was like kind of that song that like really got me. And then I was like, well, now that you've been diving into, and they have Spotify, so now
Yeah.
it's like
Hmm.
when he really started getting into the Cure, I said, all right, buddy, I'm going to make you a quintessential Cure playlist that's going to cover all of it. So you don't have to just like go through album by album. I'm going to start like with really old stuff, go, all over
Yeah.
the place. And his album is Head on the
Yeah.
Door. And I was like, okay, I'm never going to tell anybody, again, there's like 4 Cure records where if you tell me it's your favorite 4 or 5, then I'm like, yeah, I can't argue
Yeah.
that because it's so good and what you got drawn to at the time, like,
Yeah.
and my son is, I think I'm opinionated about
Yeah.
music.
Not.
He is way more, and I'm like, damn it, I've created a
Oh
monster
boy.
because now he tells me I'm wrong about stuff, and I'm like,
Wait
what?
a minute.
But yeah, In Between Days is probably his favorite song now, and
Cool.
and that's like one of his favorites. And then Disintegration, he loves that song, and we'll talk. Like he goes, yeah, because the bass line never stops, but the song grows with
Yeah.
it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm like,
You're
oh
getting
yeah,
it.
yeah, you're getting it. Chaz though, I was like, that's Chaz's favorite. He's like, really? Oh, awesome. And then I got to take them to see the Cure at the first Madison Square Garden show
Yeah.
on that run. And like I've finally disclosed to everyone, that was the first time I got to see them because it's just I could never afford that. I
Yeah.
never had someone to go with. I didn't have people that were like as into them as I that would spend the money, and I wasn't gonna go by myself,
Yeah.
like, and I didn't have that. So I got to share that, with my
That's
kids. And
awesome.
it to me, it was almost more, it was more special,
Hmm.
and then being able to link up with you guys on that tour, you know, um, I I started getting into podcasts about 6 years ago when my buddy Sam had been doing his podcast, And then he would ask me to join on specific subjects. So I would be like, okay, yeah, let's roll. This is what we do anyway in the
Yeah,
back of the bars and the venues is talk shit about movies and music, and then go to the diner and do it even longer.
right.
Uh, so I would always go on his, and then I had said to him at one point, I'm like, Sam, here's something because Sam loves the Cure too. I was like, here's something we should do. We should let's do a Cure episode and let's rank Cure records. And then he's like, yeah, but I feel like it would need to be more than one episode. So we kept trying to figure out like how we would do it. And then finally he just said to me, he was like, why don't you just do like your own podcast about the Cure? Like I'll jump on it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'd started doing a couple, and then, I'd done a couple episodes, and then I found the Holy Hour podcast, and then I started listening to that. And then, then it was like, then finding you guys on social media and,
Yeah.
getting you guys on the podcast that I was doing. And then as I was doing, my other one that was more about everything, I was just like, I remember just hitting you up one day and being like, I don't want us to keep covering the same stuff and we're on each other's back and forth. Like, if you ever want to just like have me on more frequently, that would, I could do
Right.
that and then still do this. And then it's
Yeah.
just like, it went from there. I was like, let's just join forces, like
Totally.
we're grabbing the same people and it's a lot funner to, instead of like always going out and trying to find a guest. I was like, it's amazing. I was like, yeah, you guys can go and talk about all this crazy stuff all the time too. And I was like, and that's what I'm doing. I just don't have the other
Yeah.
person to bounce it off of.
Right. Yeah, I remember it feeling totally like a desert island kind of thing. We run. There's another human.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
It's like, it's
like,
like,
is it a mirage or is it a
yeah.
human? I don't,
It'd be
like,
like us just having camps on the other side of the same desert island. It's like, what are we doing? Just
they're a band that I continue to grow to love. Like I've grown out of so many bands in my life,
yeah,
Mhm.
and growing further into one is so much harder. And it's
yeah,
such a beautiful testament, because we're still here even after, some of the frustration in the years between records and some of the later records that we just weren't feeling. And like I had said to you, like even the Cure self-titled, like as time has gone on, like, I'm less critical about it. And,
Nah.
I don't love it. It's still low when I'm ranking them,
yeah,
but I don't like, I don't run to shut it off,
yeah.
you know.
Eh.
And I know.
Chaz didn't get to let all this out in the episode. We worked
I
through it. It
didn't.
was
Yeah,
like it was like therapy.
um,
It's
yeah,
like it's a
totally.
link in the chain, it keeps the carry going.
And then even my daughter Madison, who, she's gotten super into them as well. And, both my kids, she loves Burn, and Want are her two favorite Cure songs.
Yeah.
And she's a Billie Eilish, fanatic.
Mhm.
Oh,
But, if it's not Billie Eilish or a Broadway show soundtrack, it's The Cure. And again, I didn't force it on them. It was just, they heard it. They both came to me when they wanted more.
yeah.
Like, tell me what records to listen to. What songs should I listen to, Dad? Or what, and then can we go see them play? And I'm like, oh, you
Yeah.
think so? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try.
It's-
And then and that's
you
a whole other
promised.
story, as we all know about
Yeah.
how difficult it was to get tickets. But on the flip side of that, Robert made it so that I could afford to take my wife and
Mm.
both my kids to see The Cure. So,
There you go.
you know,
Robert Smith keeping families together and happy.
yeah, yeah. But like, it's like we look at all these bands that through the years have tried to flex to Ticketmaster. And
Yeah.
Robert Smith is like the first person that ever like
Yeah.
knocked them on their ass. And I'm like, fuck.
Totally.
Like for that alone, I mean just thinking back to all the press on that was like pretty awesome. But
Yeah.
my Cure journey went from like just curious kid that heard this song that he was digging to like, being able to try to find more information because I didn't have the luxury of an older brother or like a hip mom that was into current music or
Yeah.
that kind of music. she was, Joan Baez and like I said, Bob Dylan. She was a straight up hippie. I mean, luckily she wasn't like a Grateful Dead hippie, but I got the combination of hippie and and super religious. So
Yeah. So
it
technically your own maker, right? If we're comparing to vampire terminology. Yeah, you
I
just
think so.
kinda
Yeah.
just,
My own
wow,
make.
you're born of the thread, right? Or something like that. The force.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I had a high M count. My midichlorians
Yeah,
were
you
very connected to Robert Smith.
Interesting.
Like Melissa and I also, our first date, which was 7 hours sitting at a bar just talking about music. We talked a lot about The Cure and Depeche Mode, Nine Inch Nails, and those are things that we like really bonded on because I was the emo kid and she was the goth girl.
Yeah.
But right there in the middle waiting was the Cure that gave us this common thing that we like latched onto and like gave us our first like bonding moment,
Yeah.
which was really awesome. So even like later in life, The Cure, it's not like we were like teenagers hearing the single on the radio for the first time. It
Right.
was
Yeah, still crossing over.
so that's my Cure journey that I have been able to pass on to my kids and that we're passing on to people through the airwaves of podcasting. So
Hell yeah. And then the story goes on. So
yeah, and it
very cool. Thanks.
and it
man.
has not ended yet.
No, yeah, so
Yet.
much to come still. We have the acoustic
Allegedly.
we have the
Yeah.
acoustic streaming live thing to look forward to. So
Yeah. Woo!
hey. Well, shit. I guess my turn then.
Yep.
All right. So let's goes way
All right, we're
back.
done.
Oh boy. Yeah. Stay tuned.
And we're out of time. Okay.
Oh well, just go listen to the first episode again.
There you go.
Yeah. So let's see. My story goes back to 1988. I've pinpointed it to that year for sure. Born 77, so that puts me at 11, which is oddly Henson's age now.
Oof.
And kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is a crazy thing to think.
Little bugger's already seen him live, and I'm like, what the hell, man? I had to.
I was
wait
7.
all those
Yeah,
years. Yeah, he's already got it. But so yeah, 88. I thought maybe the end of 87, but I'm going over the timeline here, and it looking like somewhere in 88, but it all goes back to my maker in a sense, Jeff Butler. And he was older than me, like 3 years older than me, but a year younger than my older brother. So he was kind of, we were, the three of us a lot, but then there's kind of interchangeable kids on our street too. But we were a pretty tight crew, and they always just kind of let me hang around because I was the little brother, and so it was more that they were closer buds. And my brother was always kind of picking on him and stuff a little too much and bullying him in the sense of whatever kids do when they're growing up. But, I always admired Jeff and was always happy to hang out with him, So,
Yeah, Jeff's cool.
yeah, so we always hung around like every day after school and stuff. So the big wrinkle came, I guess, when we were hanging out. And around this time, my brother went off to military school. By choice, but he went off to military school, so I was left to hang out and start skateboarding with Jeff on my own on the street. So we had a lot of quality time where now I was just his buddy and we'd hang out. And he was getting really into music. And while I grew up, I didn't even realize it at the time, but very fortunate that my parents were very open to us to listening to whatever we wanted to, and always had a
Humble
radio
brag.
going. I didn't think that was a big deal until I heard.
Oh, somebody had a decent childhood. Oh,
Don't worry, we have other issues, but as far as music, it was great.
He's like, I'm still in therapy.
Yeah, there's plenty of other shit, but yeah, always music playing. My mom in particular was always playing the pop radio, so I had a really good grasp on Kokomo and all that shit going on, So I was hearing all the pop Casey Kasem countdowns and stuff like that. But so we'd have that going, and Jeff was getting in the music. The first blip on the radar with The Cure was Hanging Garden. He had a skater friend that was the same age as his that turned him on to The Cure. And somewhere, probably standing on the beach, but I don't know what I was hearing it from, we'd listen to stuff while we skated around, mostly punk stuff. So he actually got me more officially into the Misfits and stuff before that. So I was like, Misfits are badass. This is great. I had a lot of the other classic new wave bands already under the belt through my older brother too, like New Order and OMD, the Smiths, all those I was already down with. But somewhere in there Jeff was playing and I heard Hanging Garden, and it stuck in my head more because I was making fun of it, like fall into the walls. I'm like, what is this bullshit you're listening to? What kind of lyric is that? That's ridiculous. But then I kind of secretly dug it too, you know. And then somewhere after making fun of that, I remember a day where it was real hot out, so we were just bored, and somehow
he takes you down to the river to find a body.
Took just about. In a sense, he took me into his basement, and he was all excited because he had rented in Orange, was at our local video store, because I guess that had come out. And he put it on, and I was kind of like, is this the fall into the wall band again? You know, and I was kind of dragging my feet, but I didn't have anything else to do, so I'm just kind of hanging around, watching it, kind of not bored for some reason, even though I didn't know any of the songs. I was like, this is pretty cool, you know? And so I started to get more into it, and then I remember Killing an Arab really kind of catching me and my brother when he would come home and we'd skateboard and stuff, and that one was just badass, you know, not because we wanted to kill Arabs or anything. We were just thought it sounded cool and tough, you know.
This was during the Gulf War.
Yeah.
Let's put this in context.
Yeah. So I never understood the sticker. I'm like, what are they talking about? Racial overtone? Like, I just totally thought it was just like a song. A dude, he happened to kill him. He happened to be Arab, you know. I was like, it's not a big deal. Why they gotta put this sticker on this? But anyway, we liked that song a lot, and then at some point my brother and I were like, well, let's get this singles collection or whatever the hell. I didn't even know if it was a singles collection, but Standing on the Beach had it. We knew it was on that, but we didn't want to fully commit with our like birthday money or whatever dollars we had laying around, so we went halves on it, you know, like we'll both buy it and just trade it back and forth, you know. And then I kind of just loved it from that. And he went off to military school, so I kind of hijacked the tape pretty early, I think. And I have a distinct memory of being like in my grandparents' house in New Jersey, so summer '88 by this point, and not being able to sleep. It's like 1,000 fucking degrees in this upstairs. I'm just sitting there.
100% humidity.
Yeah, and I had the auto. There was like a way where you could hit the end of the tape and it would like rewind it real quick, I guess. So it would play the whole thing again, like just a auto loop kind of thing. And I listened to the whole damn tape like 3 times through. So I'm laying there and I listened to this damn. I remember like by Love Cats into Caterpillar and In Between Days and it ending, I'm just like, I fucking love this band. It was like, you know, love, you know, in the movies when your eyes light up and stuff. I'm just like, this is some good shit. And I was like hooked. As that specific moment, I think I was officially confirmed that, or converted, I guess, as a Cure fan. So from there, let's see, at that point became kind of this like mad dash to get every Cure tape, like you guys were saying, where you get couple bucks from like birthday money or something. So I'm in like going into not even in 6th grade yet. So it's just shitty little tape stores I'm going to in the malls mostly. And so whatever mall you went to, you would get whatever tape they had that week or whatever. So you're getting them out of sequence. I didn't know what the hell kind of order. They're all drastically different. I remember buying.
Yeah, you couldn't just take out your iPhone and look it up on Discogs.
Yeah. which was crazy because that's just, you know, there could have been 1 million of them. There could have been 6. I didn't know, you know. So I was like, the next round, I have a distinct memory of getting In Excess, Kick, and Boys Don't Cry on the same day. Again, I was like, well, this might suck because I think it's their first album. So I better get Kick because I know that one's kick ass. It's got like Devil Inside, Need You Tonight. That's a sure bet with that one. And so in the alt world, I have an In Excess podcast somewhere out there, I guess, where the road went horribly wrong. But
constantly defending that he didn't kill himself by jacking off.
Yeah, no, like that wasn't officially confirmed. But luckily, I chose the other route and kept buying Cure tapes. Somewhere around here too, the funny transaction went down with Jeff Butler, and I remember he had done this before, but he was real big on like focusing on one band. Like I can't remember. I think it was REM before the Cure. So he was real into REM, and I was kind of into REM too because I'd seen their videos on like Friday night videos and stuff. We didn't have MTV, but you could watch that. And my grandpa worked for MCA, which had IRS on there, and they put out like Document and stuff. So I was kind of down with REM. And then he got into the Cure, but then at some point he got into U2, I guess, real hard. And he was like, I'm only listening to U2. I'm getting rid of all my Cure albums.
What a bad idea.
Yeah. I was like, what? So I was just like, well, that's stupid, but okay. And he was like, he made me this deal. He's like, I'll sell you these tapes I have and this Kissing Tour t-shirt, the white one with the lip, like the front of the Kiss Me, Kiss Me. You could get it at like Sam Goody. It said Kissing Tour on it, but it wasn't like an actual. It was like one of those ones they dig out and give to the tape stores afterwards. But and I still have that one to this day. It's see through, and there's some questionable stains all over it. But
you only wear that on the special nights, huh?
Yeah. It takes a very. It's not gonna make it too much longer, but it's cool shirt. So yeah, I think like around $20 he sold it to me. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was something doable for a 6th grade kid, I guess. So I got that, and I'm pretty sure I got Pornography, because in all like the lore at that time anyway that I was able to stumble across, they'd always were like, this was the album that we lost our minds, and I always interpreted that as it just sucks, it was like, but it took me like years of like, no, you lost your mind in a cool way, but so I got Pornography from him, Japanese Whispers, and the Walk, which was basically Japanese Whispers with missing the two with the fly on it, so those three tapes. Maybe the top, but I kind of have a distinct memory of getting the top at a tape store too. So I got those, and that was just a big deal though, because it was like, oh, Jeff sold me all his shit, and then I was just like listening to it nonstop, making mixes out of all those songs and different tapes and everything. So that was pretty cool, and I guess I don't know. While we were friends for a while after that, he, saw that I'd become obsessive Cure fan pretty soon after that, but like I don't think he ever really got back into them. I mean, I think he probably tolerated them or something, but remember shortly after that he got real into Metallica and started playing guitar, so we'd be like yelling at his window, come on out, Jeff, we can skateboard, and he's like, down, 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 down. And he's like, no, man, I'm playing guitar. And we're like, you suck, man, you're never gonna play. We're all heckling him and shit. But I think he got pretty good at guitar after that. But I think he may have become a metalhead for sure. So let's see from there.
He's actually probably currently a member of Slipknot. You just don't know it.
Right. By fall of '88, 6th grade starts. I'd gobbled up, I think, pretty much all the albums by that point. There was a shop at Springfield Mall in Virginia called Hong Kong that was huge. It was just like, if I had a time machine, I would just go clear that place out and like resell it all. It went out of business within like a year, but it was like one of those places where you could buy like giant Cure posters and Susie and the Banshee t-shirts and black lights and samurai swords and bongs and like just all this like weird shit.
There's a store at the Jersey Shore that's like that.
Awesome.
If we ever meet at the beach there, we'll go in there and you can have a flashback.
I mean, I just fucking bought so much shit there, like patches and t-shirts and like t-shirts that would fall apart. I got like this Boys Don't Cry one that was like black and brown, and it was just hideous. It was like kind of a tie-dye thing, but it was like just like straight up bootleg with the, Boys Don't Cry silhouette on it, and that thing just fell apart after like 2 washes. So yeah, just buying all that stuff. I think I got the 10 Imaginary Years book around there too, and visual documentary one. They were like the ones that the tape stores always had, and that like became my Bible at that point, because now I had like a discography and pictures from the different eras, and I could put all the pieces together. And I met Donald in 6th grade too, so he was total metalhead. He was all into Def Leppard and Guns N' Roses and shit, and I was just constantly giving him tapes like Clash and Misfits won him over first. But then I think by the end of the year, because at that point I was counting down the days, I guess I'd seen in like a Spin or Rolling Stone that Disintegration was coming out. I was like, holy shit, a new album. And I was like counting down the minutes, and finally got that. And that was a huge memory of my mom taking me to the mall the day it came out, and I got the tape, and I sat in the clothes racks reading all the lyrics first, which,
peeking your head out to scare your mom every couple minutes.
Which, like, I remember distinctly the first episode when I was telling the story with Donald of like, it seems a little weird, like I was a little too old to be like doing that, but now that I've like confirmed I was 11 and Henson's age, I could totally see him just sitting in the clothes rack and reading lyrics or something. So I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it still checks out, so
I mean, the restraining order you got last year from doing it from TJ Maxx.
Yeah, they
really,
were like,
yeah, you can't do that anymore, man.
Nah.
You're a little bit too old.
I'm reliving a childhood
Once you hit
memory.
40, it's not okay.
Yeah. We were talking about how we're gonna listen to the new album if and ever it comes out. Maybe I'll do that. take the lyrics to TJ Maxx and just go sit.
I'll go to Marshall's.
Yeah.
You go to Burlington. Burlington.
Yeah, Burlington Go Factory.
Yeah, I think it was it. Potomac Mills Mall. I remember that's where I went. So yeah, I just gobbled all that stuff up, and I couldn't get them all fast enough, and trying to put the timeline together, but I just felt like it was a million years between finds, like when I'm looking at this timeline, I'm like, so it was all 88, like that summer pretty much into early 89s when Disintegration, because I had them all by the time Disintegration came out for sure, but I just felt like that was like years of like, when is the next piece gonna be unlocked or whatever. And so very cool. I guess just speeding along, at that point I was obsessed. I didn't get to see the Prayer tour. I remember in 6th grade I was looking in the wrong magazine for concerts because I'd never even been to a concert at that point, and I saw a girl, an 8th grade girl, had a Prayer tour shirt on one day.
Hell yeah.
It like totally broke my heart because I was like, what? It already happened? And then I was like, wait, who's she? There's another?
Like, by the way, can I have your phone number?
Yeah, I was like, that was this cool chick. And because, it was very, very few. Nobody really knew about The Cure by that point in my school, just our little circle of friends. So it was like this whole... the older skate kids, but they had already gone to high school by that point when I was in middle school. And then Wish came out my freshman year. So that was the big build up. And that was the first concert where I got my shit together enough and was able to stay on the phone and lock down tickets for my brother.
Oh, God,
and
that's
I.
right.
So we went and got that. We had like 3 different phones going and shit. So it felt very similar maybe to the madness we went through. But so then
Was that Ticketmaster?
yeah, probably.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so
Bastards.
it's ridiculous. And,
Back when they didn't screw you over, right?
yeah. So and so that was just a religious experience. Finally seeing them for the first time, age 15 or 16, I guess. Maybe I turned 16 at that point, going into the spring of freshman year. And then it just became like every 4 years at that point, which is a whole block of your education life and life changes and all that, So it's pretty crazy. And saw them at least once for all the albums leading up. And I guess going into podcast stuff, around 2015 was because I had been working in this lab and listening to podcasts, and I was like, these are cool. I wish there was more music ones. Wish there was a Cure one, and not really wanting to take it on because I love them too much, one of those deals where I was like, I don't want to be like everybody calling me out for every little detail I screw up and stuff like that. So I was like hesitant, but I was like, well, Morrissey's kind of complicated, so I don't know if I want to take him on either. So I don't know if I need to be doing a Smiths podcast, which thank God I didn't do.
Yeah, really.
You wouldn't be talking to these two guys
Yeah,
right here.
it'd be a whole different story.
You might be talking to us, but it might be a little bit, tone might be a little bit different.
Different way, so luckily, and I think it was because Donald and I were just talking, and we'd have these nights where we're just drinking and talking together on the phone, and we would just get rambling about a Cure album or something, and we're cracking each other up with like making fun of it or praising it or remembering something, and it's like we should just record this shit and do that. So that's what we did, and fast forward 250 episodes later, here we are. So that's the cool thing. And I guess, just to wrap it up, I guess with the child side, it's not too much to tell of Henson's. It was just gonna happen. He was born into it, literally. I've said a couple times I played Disintegration on loop. Casey was cool with that because she loves the album when he was being born. So playing on loop. I was trying to time it where he came out right with the unplaying song, but and then somehow the whole damn computer battery died or something at the 0 hour. It was like a super long pregnancy.
Push him back in.
I gotta charge the computer.
Yeah, it was like a 13, 14 hour long pregnancy anyway. So it went on forever, and so it played for at least 8 of those hours or 10 of those hours probably on a loop, and so we missed that, but it's in there. I feel like it seeped in probably. And but the first night he was born, I did make sure I had my little earbuds. I didn't put them in his ears because he's a newborn baby, But I did turn it up and just kind of laid it next to him and made sure that the first song he ever heard was "Pictures of You." So he could never,
Is our baby deaf?
I
don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Not my
his
fault.
ears out by playing Shiver and Shake.
Yeah.
So, but and it just is always around. I've never made a conscious effort to be like, you got to hear this, the greatest band. But like we've said, it's just something I'm always wearing the T-shirt. He was watching Cure videos intercut with fucking Muppets and stuff before he could even talk. So Robert Smith looking slightly unusual has never even been a factor. He just is always Robert Smith, and he's always around and loved the songs. He gravitated quickly towards just the pop element of it. I think Caterpillar was actually the first one that he really loved, even before he could talk, really, just because he loved the little flicka like all the little sounds and stuff, And he's like, finally somebody's speaking my language.
Uncle Bob did some real babysitting while Daddy was sleeping off.
I just put on one of those 3-hour long live shows. He was good to go. But then he really just got onto the poppy stuff, once he learned the word for cats and what cats are. Of course, Love Cats became his ultimate favorite and still is. But, he doesn't even really know that Purse for Rain isn't a single, or, to this day, he still thinks all the deeper cuts are, what? That wasn't even, it blows his mind. Yeah. Like when I tell him that, even the fact that Love Cats was a standalone single, he's like, what? It's like, no.
He doesn't understand the intricacies between the United States and UK based systems and everything. Come on, man.
Still cutting him a little slack on that one. But
I think part of the reason why both your kids are seemed more into it is both of you guys are musicians and play music. I don't do any of that, so I think that's part of it. They don't really have that around me or around them growing up, so
and I think that totally locks him in with no. But just the fact that he's strumming a chord and that's in a Cure song, that makes him love it more right now. And I'm sure he's gonna find his other Cure at some point, and if he comes back and loves them, great. But there's it'd be weirder if he continues to be his favorite band, but at the same time, like I said, could have been a lot
It's
worse.
like, yeah, we're just happy if it's in their rotation,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so and if nothing else, I think he's always going to associate it with us and stuff like that,
absolutely. Yeah.
so
Right. Oh yeah,
there
definitely.
was a weird article. I can't even remember the details now, but I remember you commented it online, Chaz. It was just something I've stumbled across in a Facebook group, but it was something slightly pretentious. I remember it rubbed me the wrong way, but it was some kind of like write up in a newspaper or online paper about someone saying, I don't force my music on children and stuff like that. And I see people with their kids wearing or bands that are older bands t-shirts, and she was kind of like giving them shit for like we pushed it on them too
Yeah.
much or something. And I remember, Chaz, you made a great point in response to it. It was like, well, what's wrong with the kid liking it or loving it because it reminds them of your parents?
Yeah.
It's that is part of the love, and part of this is
Well,
something cool that we shared. Growing up, listening to this stuff, and it's not about forcing them to
yeah.
like it. And that was, I don't know,
Yeah.
there was more to it,
Th-
but I remember just being like, what a douche.
yeah,
I was like,
there's a difference between there's a commercial on right now that's really bothering me where it's like I think it's Toyota commercial where this dad is talking about how his son's like well, maybe 10 years old and he's like driving like a motocross bike and
uh-huh.
like his dad's talking about how his son has this drive in him and how he loves doing this. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, no, he loves this because you've forced him to do this over and over
Right.
again, It's just but like there's a fine line between, you know, forcing your kid to love something to try to be an extension of yourself,
Right.
which is wrong, or just having your kids be exposed to something and if they like it and they like it. And I'm sure you're not going to be heartbroken if 5 years from now, Henson turns into a big metalhead.
Yeah, no.
It's just
Yeah.
he's gonna love music regardless, and you have songs that remind you of your parents growing up. I mean, I don't, which sucks,
Mhm.
but I'm sure you hear songs on the radio that remind you of your mom or your whatever
Yeah.
that you associate with them. And I think that's what our kids are gonna do, but there's nothing wrong with exposing your kids to the things that you love and the things that you
Yeah.
like because that makes you more
Yeah.
human and
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
that shows them that it's okay to like things that not everybody likes, because
Yeah.
not everybody likes Secure and not everybody looks, dresses like me and not every dad looks like Tonio or me, and
Right.
it's, it just comes out like that. It's good to expose your children to that stuff. And like my son is really, really into baseball. I
Yeah.
love baseball. I've never said, we got to go outside and throw the baseball around. You're going to this game with me. We're sitting down and watching
Yeah.
this game. It's
Yeah.
never been like that. I've always been he's
Right.
like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? I was like, I'm watching the Phillies. And he sits down and watches it. And like, he wanted to get into baseball card collecting. I had nothing to do with that. I'm just like, here, you
Right.
can have mine from the basement.
Right.
So, and like, we just kind of support both our children and what they love. I loved wrestling growing up.
Hmm.
Somehow my youngest got really into wrestling. I
Yeah.
never pushed that on them. I never, it's never was anything that I was like, here, you got to do this.
Right.
They fell in love with it and they still love it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just we support them in those things. And I think that's the most important thing. And with like Gavin, Henson's into the Cure, but like what's more important and more that I see out of that is you spending your time with your son and doing those things that he loves to do in this moment.
Yeah.
And that is performing and that's learning to play music and playing it and going on these amazing hikes and everything. And
Mm.
like those are the
Fishing.
important, yeah, those are the important
I'm
things,
not that into fishing, it turns out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
But I
Yeah.
do it every day, pretty
that's
much.
the thing.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
if Jonas
So,
came down and said and was like, Dad, can we go fishing? And he got really into it,
yeah.
guess who's going fishing with him?
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
how it
totally.
goes. So.
Fucking would
Well,
hate it, but you know
that's
Yeah.
what?
like when I was in Tulsa,
Totally.
Oklahoma for work. My boss was like, "Yo, the Bob Dylan Museum is here." I was like, "Yo, let's go." And it's not that I'm like a Bob Dylan mega fan, but you know, the first song my mom ever taught me how to play on the guitar was "Blowing in the Wind" by Bob
Hmm.
Dylan. And going there and seeing all the stuff, it like just made me remember like before I was scarred by some of the parental shit that my mom
Yeah.
had, there were those moments. And, you know, I texted her and I was just like, you know, at the Bob Dylan Museum, I'm sending her pictures and stuff, and she's
Hmm.
she's telling me stories about the first time she saw him and this, that, and the other. And I was like, you know, thank you for making me love music.
Yeah.
It's
I.
it's not that she made me fall in love with Dylan or the Beatles, because you know, quite honestly, I'm very far removed from, you know, I mean, I listen to Bob Dylan way more than I listen to the Beatles.
Mm.
But you know, the Beatles weren't my thing. It's like, and when I was a little kid, yeah, the catchy stuff was cool, but like I don't give a fuck about Sergeant Pepper's. You know what I mean? But like Bob Dylan, I listened to like more throughout my life, and it's, you know, it's not in my top 10, but I was just like, thank you, because you opened me up to music that you loved, therefore starting my passion for loving music just in
Hmm.
Yeah.
general, you
Yeah.
know. So we may not love all the same bands. I mean, for crying out loud, she first concert I ever went to, like my story is ruined because she dragged me to see Peter, Paul, and Mary because she was a damn hippie,
You have
you know.
to tell
And I'm like,
everybody that when they ask the question. You're like,
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
shit. I'm like, aside from Puff the Magic Dragon, I don't even know. I don't know what other songs they sing. I don't remember
yeah.
that shit. I was a little tiny tyke. But meanwhile, Puff the Magic Dragon was about smoking weed.
There you
You know,
go.
like,
That's kind of cool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think
so
both of your
Yeah.
parents definitely instilled um the love of music
Yeah.
well, which is, I think the only artist that I think my mom ever we didn't really listen to him, but it was Johnny Cash, like was the only one that like if we did listen to any type of secular music, and it would usually be his hymns and shit
Yeah.
like
right.
that.
Yeah, I was just
So
gonna say, yeah, he had all that stuff. Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
was Johnny Cash, but like that's the only thing that kind of carried over for me, if anything. But like, yeah,
Cool.
that's like the one thing I wish I would have had. Like, is some sort of
yeah.
love for music. Like, when I had to, when it was time to learn an instrument at the Christian school I was at, it was like we had to pick an instrument, and I picked trumpet.
Mhm.
I wanted to play trombone, but we couldn't afford it. And then our pastor had an extra trumpet I could borrow, and like they thought that was more of a hassle than anything. And it was just like, there was
Oh, I
no
thought you
like,
were gonna say that's when you fell in love with ska music.
yeah, you think I would have, so it probably could have, I
Could
probably
have,
could have
yeah.
joined a
Yeah,
ska band in a couple of years, but like, so like,
yeah.
but there was like no, like that was more of a, an annoyance than something that was supposed to be nurtured, which we're trying to correct now in our kids. So,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
important thing on our end is if they're into it, we're into it.
Yeah.
Even if it's Minecraft.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
Exactly.
because like, and
All the
I don't mean to go
squares.
off on tangent here, but like their worlds are so small that we don't really think of it in those terms. So, and like that game is their world at that
Yeah.
moment in their life. So, you
Yeah.
partaking in that game is partaking in their humongous world, which is so small.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, I think we need to take I think you guys are both great examples of doing that as parents. And I especially when it comes to music. I love that. I love seeing your guys' kids
Mm.
learning about music. I kind of wish I could do that with my kids, but
That'll
that was
work.
Yeah.
never there. So, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and it was pretty
yeah.
awesome when Elvis and I are standing at the Aquabat show and running into the MC Commander, and I'd be like, you know,
Hmm.
he was on the podcast, and he was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And I mentioned it to him, and you know, told him, and you know, his eyes lit up. He was like, yeah, man. He's like, I'll go on again. He's like, hell yeah, dude.
That's
So
awesome.
like,
Yeah.
even with the worlds colliding like that, because you know, Yo Gabba Gabba being so huge for him when he was
Hmm.
a little kid, and
Hmm.
helping introduce him to music, and then like, you know, just seeing, yeah, here's this, you know, this guy who also big Cure fan, and just Elvis seeing like,
Yeah. That's
you know,
great.
you know, the gravity that is the
And
Cure.
again, the
Uh,
crossing over of
the
genres
cross,
and
yeah, the cross,
Yeah.
it's
exactly,
like,
genre cross. It's like
yeah,
crazy. You
it's
know,
a
you
lot
Yeah.
don't
of
Yeah, it's not what you'd think when and
Yeah. That's
but
what I loved about going to the Cure concerts is like there was every type of person was at that concert.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
From, LGBTQ plus community to, just different musical genres represented, to fashion and like all over the place, artistic people. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
To the two jackasses that sat behind us that wouldn't stop talking.
Yeah.
Um, so it happens, but like it's really awesome how I think this band above I'm gonna say just about probably any other band brings the worlds together. Um,
Yeah, I was
I
just
can't
gonna say
really
that's the
think of any
moral of
other.
the
Yeah.
story, man. They really, they bring people together from all facets
Yeah.
of life, age, race, background, religion.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's just, it's so universal. Yeah,
And like you
it's
said, and through our stories of how long this has been a consistent, like me being Henson's age, fucking sixth grade, and I'm still talking about this,
Yeah.
which might
Yeah.
say something about
yeah.
me. I don't know, but at the same time, it's kind of fucking weird and cool, That luckily the band's that cool, where it's something that just continues to grow with you. Kind of, I've said it before, where it feels like the oldest friend I have, really, or something is
Hmm.
the Cure. They were there at every breakup. They were there at every happy moment. It's kind of fucking wild and something to not take for granted, because I think it is. It's like cool, man. And then it's not locked down too. That's the thing where I don't hear certain songs and be like, oh, that was so and so. She ripped my heart out, and now I can never listen to that song again.
Yeah,
Because I
totally.
have shit like that. Where I'm like, it's just not as cool now. It reminds me of this, but they always kind of overshadow whatever the
Yeah.
horrible thing was or the great thing. It's just still a cool song. So it's pretty rad. So I hope our
Awesome.
makers for Veronica and Jeff Butler anyway are still Cure fans. I don't
Hmm.
know what he's doing out there. Jeff's a super elusive dude anyway. He's not even on anything social media. We haven't talked in ever. It's been so long since probably like I think briefly touched base like right out of high school. But I know he was in a band called Nut. So if anybody out there followed this like kind of new metal, probably thrash band or something, I don't know. Did you guys ever buy any
Was
Nut album?
was it spelled?
KNUT?
I was gonna say, was it spelled KNUT?
Yeah. I think it was.
Yes.
So,
I'm telling you, dude, he's in Slipknot. I'm telling
yeah,
you.
he lives in Florida. I know. I think we did track down his address at one point, but it was only because we had heard like his dad had passed away, and I was like, I don't want to like. Or he got to a point where I was like, well, if he's off the radar that much, he kind of wants to be,
Yeah.
So I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I would love to just hear this story from his angle. It's probably completely different. He's like,
Well, now that
no
you're talking
way.
about Florida and being off the radio, I'm just picturing him living on a houseboat with like only a CB radio and
Might be. Who knows?
like a TV that just has antennas on it and
Yeah,
shit.
I don't know, man. So, but yeah,
He was
I'll
at
leave that-
January 6th.
Pretty much
Oh,
a
man.
lot of possibilities could be very plausible. So who knows?
That's why he's been
But,
off the radar.
yeah. So who knows? But maybe I'll try to track him down. It'd be great to have him on the episode on the podcast.
Like, why did you leave the Cure behind?
Yeah, like what the fuck, dude? Like, come on. You know that they were the best band out of all the ones. But I don't want to keep you too long, Antonio. You got to bounce. Or...
Yes, my friend.
All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing your tales and sharing the journey with us.
Hell
Appreciate
yeah.
it. We'll do the,
And,
the
and
wrap-up
I
here.
love that, our future journeys are together.
Yes, we're all interwoven now.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man.
Hasta la pasta.
See you, man. Good night.
Good night, all.
Anybody out there? Anything along the lines of what we just did? Feel free to record yourself reminiscing.
Please do.
And yeah, we would love to hear it. And or if you're not into talking, you can always write it out, and I'll try to do my best dramatic interpretation of it. But we would love to hear from you. So definitely hook us up with your origin tale. I was going to say, too, that we should put one lie in all our stories too, just to see if any real diehard
Who says I didn't?
listeners. Yeah, I mean, I think I unintentionally did. Probably, I was like, it's the reason why Robert Smith's my hero. I think I could contradict myself very often, so I probably messed something up that would be different from the last episode. But
yeah.
Well, on that note, good listeners, I hope you enjoyed our tales. And like we said, send them in if you have something similar. And until next time, we'll be back with all new original episode ideas.
Yes.
And we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much, Chaz. Always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. And you guys
you.
out there, talk hard. All right, kids, thanks so much for reminiscing with us. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks again to Chaz and Antonio for joining me, and you guys for listening. And of course, a special thank you to our loyal Patreon team. We have Donna, Craig, Jeff Hilton, Jeff Cortland, Jones, Sue, Ben, John, Alan, Allison, Dion, Namicio, Matt, Danny, Coulter, Matt Ford, Tom Johnson, Tom Burns, Letty, John Roberts, Francisco, Jason, Bunny Lake, Amber, Nicholas, Arno, Chad, Shirley, and Jason Hall, who was one of the leading inspirations for this episode and suggested that we revisit our origin story. So thank you to Jason, just one of the many wonderful ideas he has sent our way. And of course, Scott Kruger, who has not only designed our new wonderful logo, but is also co-host of the Sarlacc Digest, the best damn Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. It airs live every Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube or Facebook, or you can catch the replays anywhere you get your podcasts. No matter what level Star Wars fan you are, you gotta give this show a shot. Their knowledge of the material and overall love of the franchise really make for an entertaining and educational show week after week. Tanya would like to spread awareness on 988lifeline.org, a suicide and crisis hotline with over 200 crisis call centers located all over the U.S., available 24/7, offering free and confidential support for people in distress and numerous prevention and crisis resources. Call or chat online if you or anyone you know is in need of help. Tim is part of New Waterloo, an independent hospitality development, design, and management company that owns and operates hotels and restaurants all over the United States and beyond. Find their many locations at newwaterloo.com. Dana is a freelance animation, illustration, and motion graphics designer, currently open to new projects and commissions, so check out her amazing work at graphics.tv. That's graphics with an X.tv if you're looking for someone to help spruce up your project. And Kate over at CureThreads.com has a vast catalog of original Cure-inspired designs on a wide range of products, just waiting for you to come gobble them up. So she also runs Cure Arts Collab on the Instagram page, and that compiles Cure fan art, so go follow the page. Keep your eye out for the next theme that you can get on board with. And Lisa recommends you visit Dickens in Calgary, Canada. If you want to watch or catch a great show or event, you can see the full listing of upcoming shows at dickensyyc.com. And Jessica recommends you catch a show or event at Club Nevermore down in Little Rock, Arkansas, if you want to get the full goth experience. So you can find their full listing of events at clubnevermore.com. And do yourself a favor, go check out Chaz's other podcast, The X Communication Station, where he, Donovan, and Chrissy try to figure out what exactly is going on inside that evangelical church. New episodes drop weekly. So if you want to join our Patreon team like all these fine people, head on over to patreon.com/theholyhour and check it out. You are also always welcome to email me any random thoughts on the show or the cure, or your cure origin story. Just send it to gavinconner@gmail.com. Like I said, maybe we can start stockpiling a few of these origin stories and do a full listeners episode very soon. Just record yourself telling the tale, or type it up in an email. Send it on over. On top of that, just please subscribe so no episode slips by you, and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram page in particular. I've got a new episode idea quickly approaching that's going to need your help for contributions, so keep your eyes peeled on the Instagram page to be a part of that episode. And don't forget to go visit our new merch shop. You can find the link at any of these social media things. And on our YouTube page, we've got t-shirts with varying logos, stickers, mugs, bucket hats, socks. There's even a welcome mat where you can put it down in front of your doorway and wipe your feet on our face every day. Okay, this is getting weird, so I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for listening. Until next time, take care and talk hard.